Hello and welcome to another episode of the Career Reset podcast. So today I want to talk about a topic that I can't believe I haven't even spoken on, and that is the hidden job market. So on today's Thursday, and on Tuesday I hosted a free webinar called How to Find a Job in a Tough Economy. I hope many of you were able to attend that or watch the replay, because it was really very, very valuable. I got a lot of comments that it really changed people's perspective on how they think about a job search. And that is so important. That is really the first step you need to take in order to change your approach for one that actually works in this economy, in this competitive job market. And one of the main messages I shared in that webinar is that in this job market, in this economy, you absolutely cannot focus only on the open jobs and only on sending applications, which still most of the job seekers I talk about do. The typical approach or like typical way people try to find their next job is browsing open jobs, sending applications. And as I said in the webinar, I understand it. I get why that is the case, because the link is very clear to see that a company posts an open job, you send an application, and hopefully you get invited to an interview. The process is very clear. But when I share things like you need to network, you need to be active on LinkedIn, you need to build and foster your personal brand, it is, I think, one of the main problems why people are so resistant to this idea is that the link there is not so clear. That how doing that, how me meeting people, going to events, posting on LinkedIn, how does that actually lead to a job? And I could tell you hundreds of stories from me, from people who I know, from my clients, how that factually led to them landing a job. But I want to talk about it more, like what is the actual link? How does it actually work on the hidden job market? How doing all these extra things can lead to you securing a job? Because I often, when I tell people that you need to invest more time in networking, personal branding, learning, upskilling, meeting people, like all that kind of stuff, I often get some kind of objections that are either, yeah, but I'm introverted, I don't really want to go out and meet people, or it's hard for me to go out and meet people because I have a family or I live in a small town, or people don't know how to actually do it, that networking is not a direct activity, how to actually do it. But I think that if you don't understand the purpose why you should be doing that and how can that lead you to you finding a job, then obviously you let all these objections be there and you are not really motivated to overcome them. Because if you knew with 100% certainty that you networking will lead to you finding a job, you would find a way to overcome these objections. You would find a way to do it even when you feel introverted, even when it's hard for you. But it is the motivation and the belief that it's going to work out. And it's also the thing that we want to see the results quickly. And if you send an application, then there is a theoretical possibility that tomorrow there could be an interview invite in your inbox, but that is not how it works on the hidden job market. So in this episode, I want to try to explain the actual link, like why networking and personal branding are so important. How can it actually lead to you finding your next job? And my hope is that when you have this understanding, you will be motivated to go out there and actually do all these activities. But let's start with a few facts on the hidden job market, actually. So what it means is jobs that are never publicly advertised. So there are people out there who are signing contracts, starting to work in new companies, in new jobs, and those jobs were never published. They were never on LinkedIn, never on any job portal. They were created for the person directly, or the person managed to find out about this job before it was even published. And many people are resistant to believing this idea because it is annoying, and I completely understand it. I remember when I read these statistics that 70% of jobs are never advertised, and instead of thinking, okay, that's a large number, and I'm here spending all of my time on applications and I'm fighting for only 30% of jobs, my thought when I read these statistics was, well, that is annoying. That's not how it should be. All the jobs should be advertised so that I can apply for them. That's not fair that some jobs are not advertised. But me thinking that something is not fair doesn't change how it actually works. And I actually think for yourself, unless you are a fresh graduate, for example, and you don't have any work experience, like if you have had jobs in the past, how did you actually end up in those jobs? Was it always through applying? What about the people who you know? What about your spouse? What about your friends? What about your family? Like, how did they end up in the jobs where they ended up? Because, for example, for me, so I have had, if we count legitimate jobs and not some 2-month internships, I have had 5 jobs in my life. No, that's a lie. I had 6 jobs. Okay, I will count 6 jobs as legitimate. And out of those, 2 came through job applications that I actually sent an application, and 4 where I somehow ended up in those jobs. I can tell you specifically. So one of them was, that was my first job in a museum. I was a museum guide when I was very, very young, and the head of the museum knew my mom, and she offered my mom that if I'm looking for a summer job, I could help out at the museum. So that was the first job. The second job was that my sister used to work there, and then she wanted to quit, and she recommended them that I can take the job after her. So, and that is exactly how it works, that if there wasn't a clear candidate, the company would open the open job and post a job ad and encourage people to apply and interview and so on. But the thing is, the companies don't want to do it. Opening a job to applications is the last thing any company wants to do, because it is the longest, most tedious and most expensive way, and also most risky way to find a new employee. You need several people working full-time on publishing a good job ad, encouraging people to apply, getting a good number of applicants, then going through all the applications, then rejecting those that are not a good match, interviewing those that potentially are, interviewing them several times. It's really is a very lengthy and expensive process. So it's like the last resort that companies are doing. It is not typically the first thing that companies think about. And even if they do open a job, it is very common, I would really say in absolute majority of cases from my recruitment experience and from me just talking to a lot of people about how they found jobs, that even if the company is publishing a job to the public, they already have a few people on their mind who they want to interview. It's either people who the person leaving recommended, it's people who the company just has on their radar, it is internal referrals, it is internal candidates. It's just not a leveled playing field. So even though you are seemingly applying to a job and seemingly your CV will be considered on the same grounds as anyone else's, at the same time you're writing the CV, the company is probably already interviewing a candidate who somebody recommended, removing a lot of the fear and a lot of the risk, because this is someone that has some personal links to the company. So that was just a side explanation. Then if I go further in my career, then the next job was that I actually applied and I got that job. Then the next job, that was my first job in Finland, was through a network. And that was a job that the company, again, wasn't opening any jobs, but they got to know me through someone we knew in common, and they created a job for me specifically because they saw a potential in me, and I suggested that I could solve a problem they were currently facing. And then the next job was again through job applications. And if I think of the people who I know, from my friends, from my family, in most cases, even my clients, when we go through their work history, mapping out what they did in the past to build a strong profile for their future jobs, they often tell me that, that I somehow ended up there, and I went to this event and they were looking for someone, and this guy encouraged me to apply and I got the job. And the sentence, I have somehow ended up in that job, I have heard it so many times. And even if we have these personal experiences, even if that was our case, it's funny how in this time, in this job market, it's as if we forget that is the case. It's as if we completely ignore that, and we suddenly think that the only and most realistic way to secure a job is through applying, which just is not the case. And as I mentioned, even in the open applications, there are always some people who have a head start because of their network or because of their brand. And even if I think on my past employers, so for example, the first company that I worked in Finland, when I joined them, they had maybe 8 employees. And when I was leaving, they had maybe 20 or something like that. And during the time that I was there, they published one job ad, like once in the history that I was there, did they open a job for public, and all the other people like somehow came to that company, that either they knew the founders or they knew someone else in the company. And in many cases, the company wasn't even actively looking for that kind of profile, but that person somehow got a connection to the company and was able to sell their way into it. So the hidden job market, the jobs that are never advertised, it is so massive. And if you really start thinking about it, you will start seeing it. And those are really the best cases when a job is kind of tailor-made to you. And I know that depending on the situation you're in, that can sound completely unrealistic. But meanwhile, instead of you putting yourself where that could actually be the situation, you are sending application alongside 300 other people. And at the end of it, maybe 10 people will get an interview and 1 person get hired. That is like less than 1% chance. Even if you are super qualified, there are probably people who are even more qualified for that role and even more respond to what the company is looking exactly. And when I worked in recruitment, as I have shared in the past, I worked for a recruitment agency. So companies that either didn't have their internal recruitment team or they believed that their internal team wouldn't manage, they hired this recruitment agency to find someone for them. And I'm not gonna obviously say the exact pricing, but it was thousands of euros that the company paid to find a candidate for them. And believe me, if the company could find that person in any other way, often they really exhausted all their chances, and as the last resort, they hired a recruitment agency, opened a job ad after they have exhausted all they could from their personal networks, internal referrals. So if in any of those channels they would find a good candidate, and often they did, but they just had only one and they wanted at least a few to interview alongside, to have the candidates to be able to compare them, then they would have very gladly avoided paying this ridiculous fee to the recruitment agency and opening a job and going through all that time and money to find a person to hire. So it is simply a fact that is how most people find jobs, and that is how companies prefer to hire people. Nobody wants to do the open jobs path. It's annoying for the employers, it's annoying for the applicants. And if we are thinking in general where the job market is heading, like if we are thinking that you want to not just find your next job, but kind of put yourself in a position that you will not have to always rely on sending job applications, then you better start investing in building your network and personal brand today, right now, because that is what separates people at the higher levels even more. I just recently had a discussion with one of my clients who told me that he is considering becoming an entrepreneur, but one thing that is not that attractive to him is that he knows that he would need to network and build his personal brand and spend a lot of time on that. So he's actually considering more just going like career path and building his career and being an employee. And I said, well, but the thing is that it doesn't matter nowadays, that whether you want to have a successful career or you want to be an entrepreneur, the steps you need to take are exactly the same. You need to have a strong network inside and outside your company, and you need to have a strong personal brand. You need to be attractive to the job market or to your potential clients. And that is, I personally find it exciting that it opens up more possibilities to everyone. That it is now available to much more people to be an entrepreneur or have some kind of a combination where you are an employee and you have your own business on the side. You offer the same services as an employee, as a personal consultant or anything like that. But the steps we need to take are the same. And I think many people just think that it takes way more time and way more energy. Like when I moved to Finland, 8 years ago, was it 9 years ago, I was really starting from scratch, as in no network, no personal brand, no skills, no relevant experience, nothing. So I have done this experiment of going from zero. And for the first, I think, 4 or 5 years, I invested zero time in building these long-term career assets, in building my network, building my personal brand, building skill set that would be in demand. I was just a student and I was applying for jobs. That's all I did. And the amount of time and the number of opportunities I wasted, I don't even want to think about it. But when I finally got my shit together and I started going out there and I started meeting people, the speed at which I was able to build a really strong network and I was able to get to a point where now I get opportunities constantly in my LinkedIn inbox is crazy. It's been 3 years since I started very, very actively networking, which doesn't mean going to 5 events a week, which doesn't mean being absolutely crazy and contacting everybody who comes my way. I still used an approach that was sustainable and normal and doable to me. Of course, I had to step a little bit outside the comfort zone, but it wasn't to the point where I would be losing my mind and I would be burning out. And I think within a year, I just had a very, very strong network, very strong personal brand. People started recognizing me when I went to events. Nowadays, it's rare that I would meet a person and we wouldn't have some kind of connection in common. People know me from LinkedIn, people meet me. The other day went to the library with my daughter and some woman came to me and asked me if I'm Karolina Numinen, that she follows me on LinkedIn. Like, that is crazy. And that is available to everyone who gathers the courage to start going out there, meeting people and presenting themselves and selling what they have to offer in other places than just sending job applications. But I promised that this episode would mainly be about me explaining the link, how you building your network and building your personal brand leads to you actually finding a job. So there are right now, most of the companies are thinking about hiring new people. Like either their current employees are leaving or they are expanding new businesses or their people are retiring. Even in a bad economy, things are still happening. People are getting hired all the time. So right now, companies are considering to hire new people. And as I mentioned, they are trying to think of the easiest, fastest, most risk-free to get an employee on the payroll. And obviously, they start with who do we already know, who is already in our circles, who do we know personally, who do we know from LinkedIn, whose name pops up when we think of this position. And be really honest with yourself that with where your network and personal brand is right now, would you come to their mind? If I answer for myself for most of my job searching journey, zero chance. Nobody knew me. I didn't know anyone. I was at home sending applications. Like that was all I did. And then I always kept clinging to these, like when the company sent that we moved forward with a different candidate, but could we save your contact details for our database and contact you in the future? And then I would always think like, yeah, please save my contact details and hopefully something comes out of it. Nothing ever came out of it. It's actually another just a tedious thing to go through this database. And if I wasn't a match once, why would I be match the next time if the company opened the recruitment again for that position? And I think another thing that like stops people from believing that they could find a job through networking and through being more visible online is that they think that it's reserved for some extra specialists, that even if they do have a good network and good personal brand, their skill set is nothing that groundbreaking. But again, the vast majority of jobs are filled this way, and the vast majority of jobs is not for some super unique, highly skilled specialists. And actually, funnily enough, I think for most people, their first job, like their most entry-level student, internship, whatever job, came from this, they just happened to know someone and someone finally offered them a job. So I would almost say that often companies open jobs when they are looking for someone with a really specific niche skill set, but those basic specialist jobs that of course require some skills and some experience, those are typically filled through the network, through the hidden job market. And I want to be clear that I'm not disregarding open jobs completely. I'm not saying that stop sending your CVs, that's a waste of time. And sometimes I do see these posts on LinkedIn of some people saying, if I now look for a job, one thing I would definitely not do is sending CVs to companies. And I mean, you should still do that, but what I'm trying to get to and to encourage is that especially when you're unemployed, especially when you really, it's not just like I want a better job, but I need a job yesterday, then you want to make sure that you're covering all the potential bases where the job could come from. And by only sending applications, you are covering very small fraction of the jobs that are available. So if you spend 90% of time to compete for 30% of jobs, that is not a very smart way to make sure you will find a job really, really fast. I believe that people who listen to this podcast they have tried different things. They are not just sending applications, but maybe you have gone to an event, maybe you have started posting on LinkedIn, but the amount of time people are willing to invest in those activities before they get something out of it is very small compared to reality. So, I mean, you cannot expect that you post 5 posts on LinkedIn and then you have a personal brand that someone will recognize. That's not how it works. You will need to show up much more, and you will need to also take it further. Like those are these advanced strategies that actually help people secure jobs. That it's not just about, okay, I post 2 times a week, where's my job? It's about I post 2 times a week. From every single post, I learn something, how I can improve my approach going forward. With every single post, I make sure that all the people who react to the post I'm connected with, I'm starting to notice the same people commenting on my post. So that's a form of networking. So I decided to reach out to them and meet for a chat with them. And then with doing this, constantly taking forward the things you're already doing and building upon what you're already doing, then the results start coming in. And it's not like things in a job search are not linear. It's not like you go to 5 events and then you will meet someone who is looking for someone with your skill set. It's not like you post 10 posts on LinkedIn and the recruiters will start noticing you. It's not like for every 20 jobs you apply to, you will get invited to at least 1 interview. That's just not how it works. You can do all of these things for the rest of your life and maybe nothing will come out of it if you don't do it the right way and you don't put yourself in situations where there is a high chance of something coming out of it. That something might not always be an interview, but it might be the next step to take. And I think why I often hear the Carolina, I tried networking, I tried personal branding, it has brought nothing to me, is that these activities do work, but they do work if done right. And one very common, I'm not gonna say mistake because it's not a mistake, but a common approach I see with job seekers is that, especially if you've been unemployed for a while, if you've been looking for a job for a while, that becomes a big part of your identity. And for example, here in Helsinki, there are a lot of events for job seekers. It's either some kind of recruitment fair, where employers in theory are supposed to present themselves and their open jobs, which doesn't then really happen, but that's a topic for another discussion. Or it's just some kind of meetup or workshop, like typically it's something where you will be taught some job searching skills. And yeah, fair enough, that's an event. That's a networking opportunity. I then see a lot of people posting about it on LinkedIn. That's personal brand. But if we think about what kind of opportunities and people you're exposing yourself, like the chance of you from these types of activities catching the eye of potential employers is very, very low, bordering on zero. If you tell me I go to networking events, you also need, and it doesn't work, then my next question will be what kind of events? And if your answer is events that are primarily for job seekers, guess what? You're gonna meet fellow job seekers, which I don't want to disregard. That is a form of networking that brings value in and of itself. It can be very valuable and reassuring to meet people who are in the same situations, to feel less alone in your situation. If there is learning aspect that you can learn some advice on how to improve your job search, then it's of course important to implement that advice. And what do you know, maybe in the future, these people who you build connections, they're gonna work in companies and they will remember you, and that's where it could turn into some kind of opportunity. But if you are a job seeker, you need to think a bit more short term and what makes most sense in the short term. So these types of connections are valuable, like that's the part of your long-term career assets, your long-term career network that you could benefit from in 5 or 10 years if you nurture these connections enough. But that cannot be the only form of networking you do. You also need to make sure that if we are speaking about events and meeting people, that you are also meeting people, whether online, whether offline, who are actually now working, who are actually relevant, who are in the industries that interest you. And I understand there can be these barriers that if you, for example, see an event that is like meetup for marketing professionals, and you are at the moment unemployed, you can have some hesitation that, okay, but I'm not the marketing professional at the moment, I'm unemployed. But whether or not you are at the moment employed, your employment status doesn't define your value to the job market and doesn't define your interest. So if you want to learn more about marketing, if you want to meet people who work in marketing, you're absolutely in the right position to go to a marketing meetup. And then you just need to be very careful that you carry yourself as a marketing professional who maybe is not working right now, but that doesn't really make a difference. People can often get very stuck in the, okay, but if someone asks me what do I do, and then I need to say I'm unemployed. Well, you don't need to say that. You can say that right now you are looking for a new job and you are actually looking for jobs in marketing, and that this meetup, this topic was something very interesting for you. And that's all. Overall, I don't recommend in any kind of networking situation that the focus is on you and on thinking that what do I say, how do I introduce myself. You should focus on the other people, asking them questions and getting valuable insights. That is much more useful than thinking about yourself and how do you talk about yourself. And the same way with personal branding. So many people who I come in contact with tell me, yeah, tried posting on LinkedIn, didn't bring me anything. Then I look at the posts, and the posts, typically there are very few posts. There's 1 post a month or 5 in total, and often they are exclusively focused on a job search. So I am still a job seeker. How annoying is this job market? Today I got another rejection email, and that is not what employers consider attractive. It's not that they consider it unattractive and it would in and of itself exclude you from opportunities. But if you think that a company is looking, again, let's use the example of marketing, if all the posts they see from you are about the fact that you're unemployed and it is annoying and you're looking for your next opportunity, they will not connect the dots that you could be the right person for them to do their marketing. But if you're someone who frequently shares about trends, about your past experience, you are actively engaging in discussions, you are encouraging discussions in your own posts, then it will start clicking, like you will start building the audience of people who work in that field and who will start connecting your name, your face, your profile. And this is actually an area where over the years I have changed my mind a little bit, that when I started career coaching 3 years ago, I used to say any kind of networking is valuable, any personal branding activity online is valuable, and it's still true. It is better than nothing. But as the job market has gotten even tougher since then, I have started advocating for more targeted strategies and for making sure that you're actively putting yourself in environments and in circles and in contact with people who are actually working in your industry, who could connect you with some relevant opportunities. And the benefits you can get from networking and personal branding, you need to think in much wider context. So I always say that you need to think that doing these activities will tell you what's the right next step. So it can be that by going to the right environments and meeting the right people, you are learning about the trends, you are sharpening your language, you're feeling more in touch with the environment, which is easy to lose when you are in between jobs. You can find out about an event that would be relevant that you could go to. It could give you inspiration for what to post about on LinkedIn. It's all just much more connected. And another super important way how networking and personal branding can help you benefit is that you find out about opportunities as the first person, and that really matters. That is also something that used to annoy me so much when I was a job seeker, that I'm not sure if this is common in all countries, but I think in Europe, typically, because again, thinking that the companies need to, when they open a recruitment, open a job, they need to find someone fast. So one way they make sure that happen is that they don't do it so that they open the job for 2 to 3 weeks. And after the 3 weeks, they start reviewing the applications. They start reviewing the applications immediately as the applications are coming. And we used to do that also when I was a recruiter. We were at the same time still receiving applications. And at the same time, I was already interviewing some of the people who applied early on. And that comes back to what I was saying, that companies are not looking for some unique flower that has the best experience in the world. They just need to find someone who can do the job well, and they need to find that person fast so that they don't waste money on lengthy recruitments. So then it really, really matters that when a job opens up, that you are the first one to know, basically. And how to make sure that happens is, again, being active on LinkedIn, being visible, being connected to the right people, being connected to the hiring managers, so that when they post, hey, we just opened a new recruitment, you're the first one to see it and you're the first one to apply, and you can do something extra, like because you already know that person, you can comment on the post that, hey, sounds really interesting, I'm going to be applying. And then they can send you a message that, hey, actually, how about we just have an interview? I already know you. I know you would be qualified for this job, so you don't need to send an application. And I know I used to hear these stories and I thought, that is so far-fetched, that will never happen. But after talking to, at this point, thousands of job seekers and hearing all these stories and hearing these stories repeatedly, my belief system has changed, and that's why I want to share this information, what's even available, what's even possible. And the same with networking. Like, if you just know a lot of people and they know that an opportunity would be interesting for you, they are gonna send you the job as soon as they know it's opening, or even before a company actually publish on LinkedIn, and it costs money to post a job on LinkedIn. So even before the company spends the money, they are internally talking, hey, we will need to hire someone. And if someone in that conversation knows you, they could say, hey, actually, I know a person who could do that job. Let me check in with her if she is still available. And if she would be interested, maybe we can interview her. And if it goes well, then we don't even need to open that job. Again, something that if you are not exposed to these stories can seem far-fetched, but I find it very easy to come up with these examples because I hear it on a daily basis. I would say 90% of the cases when my clients succeed, it is not like I found a job, I applied, they chose me. There is always something extra that I helped them do, that they knew the person. The company knew them from LinkedIn. They met someone at an event. They knew someone from some time before. So for the speed sake of things, it just really matters to be visible and well connected. And yeah, okay, you can have these alerts set on LinkedIn, but I'm telling you, by the time the company posted the job and you got the alert, they already have some people in the pipeline from their internal references. And we can be mad about this and we can say that it's annoying and unfair, but my whole purpose of what I do, of my career coaching, is making sure everybody has access to this information and you know how it actually works, so that you can build your strategy for the market that we have, not for the job market we wish to live in. And the sooner you stop resisting and open your mind to all the possibilities that are out there for you, for the professional you are right now, the sooner you will succeed and you will find your very exciting job. And if you start implementing more networking and more personal branding into your day-to-day activities, then, and that is my wish for everyone, that this is the last time ever that you are a job seeker, that from now on you will always be the one who gets approached with opportunities. As I mentioned, I've been on this journey for over 3 years. So some of my earlier clients who I originally worked with, that they were a job seeker, I helped them find a job, and over time they are now in a completely different position. They are no longer in the original company where I helped them to get to, but they have moved on because they have been approached with an opportunity. They maybe didn't even consider changing jobs yet, but an interesting opportunity came by and they just jumped on it. And that is the career journey that I wish for everyone. And that's why I keep talking ad nauseum, why networking and personal branding are so important. And I really hope that in this episode I convinced you of the importance. But understanding the importance is step one. I think that's the biggest step, because if you understand why you should do something and you believe in the possibility that it could work out with you, as I mentioned, you will find a way and you will overcome the obstacles. But to those of you who you're sold on the idea, but where you get stuck is the how, that how do I actually network and how does it work in like, how do I make time for it? How do I do it alongside job applying? I have a very special offer for you. So I have actually opened my Career Incubator online course for signups. It's a resource I created 2 years ago, and since then I have had over 300 participants. And so many of them found jobs. And if you're watching the YouTube, you see that I am smiling, because that is, like, I honestly brings almost tears to my eyes that I was able to create a resource that helps people find jobs and end years of unemployment. But I will try to compose myself and actually tell you about it. And with every participant, I made sure that I follow their journey and I get their feedback on how I could make the course valuable. And one of the main feedbacks I have gotten is that people found it inspiring and it shifted their approach to job search rapidly. But where they often got stuck on was the exact step-by-step process. And especially it was networking and personal branding, because in the course I cover very in-depth LinkedIn profile, CV. I have over 1 hour long lessons where I break it down from a recruiter's perspective. that how I, as a recruiter, would read the LinkedIn profile, where would I find the information, how would I make the decision, so that it makes it like super easy for you to actually make a LinkedIn profile that doesn't just look cool, but actually works. So that I covered really well, but people often got stuck on that, okay, the networking, but like, how do I do it? Like, actually, how do I actually reach out to someone on LinkedIn? What do I say with posting on LinkedIn? What do I post? I don't know. And those are valid. And I understand that that can become a really real obstacle. So on top of all the amazing content I have in the course, I have created 3 new bonuses that exactly help with removing this overwhelm and overthinking of how do you actually incorporate these more advanced job seeking strategies. So the course starts with you actually figuring out what's the right field, what's the right career path for you, because that is the most important step 1 in this job market. You need to know what field you're actually in, and I know that's very complex decision to make, so that's why I have many lessons that help you look at it from different aspects, to consider your interest, to consider what's the smart field for the future, to consider what's out there, and then knowing that you can actually watch the lessons on LinkedIn, CV, cover letter, all that kind of stuff, and build your winning LinkedIn that makes sense in the context of the jobs that you're looking for. It's not just some general tips that remove grammar mistakes and make it clear. It builds on top of each other, everything in the course. And when you have covered your basis for the open jobs, for the smaller fraction of jobs that are available, as you learned in this podcast, you will have all you need to start networking, start your personal brand, start your activity on LinkedIn. I also help you build the confidence for that, because it's not just about having the step by step, but actually feeling confident, believing you have something to share with the world, like feeling like you have the permission to be more open online and offline. And I also have there a super important module that deals with the mindset side of things, with your mental health, navigating rejections, navigating uncertainty. And those lessons I built with my experience as a job seeker in mind, because I used to consume a lot of advice, but there were days when I just felt really, really low, and I felt like nobody acknowledges that I'm just supposed to be a robot that will get 100 rejection emails, and I'm gonna be a happy, positive person who will again go out there and send another application. So the mindset thing and the mental health are very, very real. So I again created a whole module and gave you really practical strategies and ways of looking at it, so that you don't feel that miserable throughout the job search journey. So the course is available as of right now. I will leave the link in the show notes, and it is only available until Monday. Then I'm again gonna close it, and I'm gonna make sure I again incorporate the feedback from the participants in the course, and then I'm gonna relaunch it maybe sometime after the summer. But if you get the course now, you will have access to all the future updates I bring, all the extra modules, all the things that I will create. You will 100% succeed with it as it is, the course. But I didn't call the course Find a Job. I called it Career Incubator, because it's a resource that will help you set up the foundations for the rest of your career, so that you never again find yourself in the situations where you wouldn't have a job and you wouldn't know what to do about it, and you wouldn't understand why nothing you have done so far has worked. It's a self-paced online course, which was really important for me to make it that way, because as I mentioned, speed matters. They are right now at this very moment, companies are looking for someone with your profile, but they don't know you exist and you don't know these opportunities are out there. So I thought that what is the fastest way I can make sure that you two meet each other, so you can get the course, and you will instantly have access to all the content right now. And you can either take it step by step, or you can jump in straight to the things you now want or need the most. You can jump straight in to the LinkedIn profile and edit your LinkedIn profile so that recruiters can start contacting you today or tomorrow latest. Or you can dive into the networking. Any step of the journey, this resource will have you covered. It answers all the questions I get asked all the time. So how do you optimize your CV and your application for applicant tracking systems so that your application gets to the right hands? How do you use AI the smart way to actually help you save time and build strong applications, but not making it sound too obvious? Should you have your open to work banner on or not? Where to find jobs? How to send open applications? It answers everything. Like, this is the one resource you can get, and you can know that it has you covered. And it is a resource that is proven. I have had many stories of people who succeeded, who have found jobs with the resource. You can read their stories on the link that I'm sharing in the show notes. You can send me questions. I have now opened my LinkedIn profile so that anyone can send me a message, even if we are not connected, because I really want to make sure that you consider this resource and you make the right decision whether it is for you or not. I really believe it is for you because it's just really amazing, and I have no problem promoting it. I could talk about it all day long because it's a great resource. I know it works, and I offer it for a super good price. So the cost of the course is 249 euros for the whole content, all the bonuses, and access to all future bonuses I will introduce to the course. And you can even split that into 2 monthly payments, so 125 a month, and you will find a job and you will make thousands of euros. This is an investment. You will make the money back with your first paycheck. That is my promise to you, and I'm so confident in that resource that I even offer money back guarantee. So if you go through the course, you don't even need to go through the whole course. You implement the advice and you tell me this has made no difference in my job search, I will give you your money back. But it has never happened to me. I have never had a refund request. I have only had positive reviews on the course. So that's why I feel super strongly about offering this guarantee, because I want to make sure you don't feel stressed about making this decision and making this investment. And I also offer a VIP option that includes 2 one-on-one sessions with me. So if you enjoy listening to my voice, listening to my podcast, and you would want to meet with me and talk about your specific case, your specific job search strategy, why it hasn't worked, and how could the course help you specifically, then you can get the VIP option. I will send you an email, we will arrange a session, and we can get it done. We can find you the job, whether on the open or hidden job market. So you need to act pretty fast. So make sure you check out the link, make sure you go through the information, make sure that if you have any questions, you are considering this, but there is some hesitation, you're worried it's not going to work for you, you're worried you're not going to succeed, send me a message and I will help you make the right decision. I'm not going to convince you to buy it, but if you tell me what's your hesitation, I'm going to help you address it, because I'm not saying it's a resource for absolutely everybody, but if I know a bit more about your session, I can help you make the right decision. That is my main goal. So the course is available until Monday the 20th. But again, the sooner you get it, the sooner you start going through the content, the higher chance you're not going to miss out on opportunities and you're going to sign a contract. I decided to build this whole launch around the idea of signing a contract before the summer, because that is 100% possible. Now is the best time of the year. This is a very high season in recruitment. Lots of new jobs are opened, so you can get the course, go through the content. The participants that succeeded didn't even go through the entire course. This is not about gathering all the knowledge. This is about getting the information you need and taking the action you need to secure your next job, to secure your next paycheck, and have this investment pay back 10 times or even more. So you can have your first interview invites in your calendar next week. If you get the course, you dive into it and you start implementing the advice. So check out the link in the show notes. Send me a message if you have any hesitations about it. And I really hope that you now see that what's available out there, where are all the possibilities your next job could come from, and you are ready to get what you need to cover all the potential bases for securing your next job. So I really hope I will see you inside Career Incubator, and I will talk to you in the next episode.